Welcome everyone on this geopolitical channel. Today we will continue following the latest development in the Idlib province. We have just learned today that the town of Saraqeb has been recaptured by the Syrian opposition forces. This town have been, just to recall you, have been captured by the Syrian regime forces just 10 days ago, and just 10 days later this town has been recaptured. And this town is a really strategic town because it's a junction between the M4 and the M5 highway, the main highway of the country, because the highway links the M5 highway links Damascus to Aleppo, and the M4 links Latakia to Damascus. So both of them are strategic for the country. And last week the Syrian regime celebrated the reopening of those both highways, which he lost the control in 2012. But this celebration was really short-lived, because just 1 week later it lost again the control of it. And according to TRT World, which is a Turkish, the main Turkish broadcaster, which has actually some journalists in Saraqeb, he confirmed that this town has been recaptured by Syrian opposition forces, even though the Russian agency's Interfax has denied that, so everyone can believe which sources he wants. What we can say at this hour, it's like another 6 Turkish soldiers have been killed by Syrian regime forces, which continue bombing the Turkish observation point, which has been set up by the Astana agreement. So those observation points are totally part of a legal process of an agreement between Russian and Turkish, even though we have to recall that also Syrian have not been part of this Astana agreement. And so for the Syrian regime, they argue that they are not legally bound by this Astana process, and so they can bomb those observation points which lies on the Syrian territory. And this is exactly what they are doing, killing so far 21 soldiers, just 6 over the last hours. And if you can imagine, the anger is mounting in Turkey, which now understands that all those soldiers are potentially in danger. We are talking about thousands of Turkish soldiers posted in Idlib. So now the situation, if it continues like that, it's from a political point of view for the Turkish government is unsustainable vis-à-vis the Turkish public opinion. Unless Turkey plans a forced withdrawal from its troops, he has no choice now to attack those Syrian regime forces. And that's why at this stage he tries now to help much more those Syrian opposition forces before probably an offensive from the Turkish army in itself next week or over the next days. So we see first the result of this support to the Syrian opposition forces with the recapture of some towns. But for sure Turkey is not even satisfied with this situation. He wants to recapture the entire Idlib region, which according to the Astana process should be under the supervision of the Turkish armies. And that's why the Astana process set up those 12 observation posts to observe actually the situation in the Idlib province. So so for Turkey it's important that those Astana agreement applies. And if it's not the case, he will resort to force to come back to this to apply this Astana process agreement. So we are today on 27th of February. So it means that only 2 days. We are only 2 days before the deadline from the Turkish government. According to the AKP party spokesman, Mr. Çelik, the Turkish army has finished all its preparation for a major offensive. So past this deadline next week, probably this offensive will be launched due to the fact that the Syrian regime is not absolutely not ready to push back its forces from the Idlib province. Actually, it's as we said in previous video, it's the total opposite. The Syrian regime forces continue its offensive, even much more north, threatening now there's probably hundreds of thousands people, because now those people have fled all those regions of Saraqeb and are pushing much more north. And if the Syrian regime continues its offensive towards the Turkish border, is threatening 1 million or maybe millions of lives. So it could be a blood shed, and this offensive of the Syrian regime, and just to prevent such bloodshed, the Turkish army will intervene much before to avoid such bloodshed. So we are continuing to following up this dramatic situation in the Idlib province in this channel, and we will keep you posted about this preparation of this Turkish offensive probably for the next days.